Okay, so when people are joining, I'll just start the introduction. Hello everyone. Good morning from India. I am Shikha Singh, volunteering as Vice President Professional Development at PMI Mumbai chapter. I hold a BE in Production Engineering from Mumbai University, Green Belt in Lean Six Sigma, and PMP certified from PMI. Professionally, I'm working at LRQA Inspection Services India LLP at Mumbai and having over 18 plus years of experience in operations of inspection services and right now handling global projects. So I welcome everyone for today's PM Forum session. And before starting the session, I will like to play a small video introduction of our upcoming PM Conclave Manthan, scheduled to happen on 21st February 2026, which is our Silver Jubilee edition. So please have a look to this and register as soon as possible because early bird is ending on 1st of Jan. So Sunil, please play the video, please. That's it. So thank you everyone for watching the video and please register as soon as possible and we will move ahead with the session. So yeah. Today's registrations are 232 plus. And PM Forum are a format used by Project Management Institute PMI chapters for discussion and networking among project professionals. PM Forums can be a valuable way to stay up to date on industry trends, learn new techniques, and build relationships with other project managers. And today's topic is Principles of Lean Management in Project Management. And to present this topic, we have invited our speaker, Mr. Arpit Desai, who is transformation leader and active PMI volunteer. A small introduction of his is Arpit Desai is an accomplished professional with a postgraduate graduate degree in manufacturing management and over 17 years of comprehensive experience across diverse manufacturing industries. A PMI member and certified Lean Six Sigma Black Belt, he has led numerous continuous improvement and project management initiatives. RP drives strategic transformation programs, strengthens operational excellence, and enables cross functional teams to achieve sustainable performance improvements. He also actively contributes to the community through various local and global volunteering assignments. His LinkedIn profile will be shared in chat box, so please connect with him. And please post question in the chat box and same will be answered at the end of the session or throughout the session as chosen by the speaker. So I request Arpit to start his session, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Sika. Thanks, sir. Good morning, everyone. Suprabhat. I'll just share my screen. Is the screen visible, Sika?
Yes, you can make it slide mode now. Yeah, fine.
Once again, good morning, everyone. So, uh, our today's topic is on, as informed by Sika, is on the principle of lean management to the project management. So, in today's PM forum, I am going to take you through the journey on this aspect, how it is being currently associated in the current scenario, and how the usefulness or the applications vary with a certain industry. I took certain examples of the case studies from the various industries. So to address the diverse people who are attending in this session, so it will give you real insights how this is useful in your day-to-day work. So about me, you can connect me on my LinkedIn by scanning this QR code. So I am basically a manufacturing transformational professional working in various manufacturing industries. Basically, I work into various functions like business excellence, Lean Six Sigma. I am basically a Lean Six Sigma black belt and various continuous improvement and the strategic improvement initiatives within the manufacturing field. So I'll just take you through certain contributions which I did in last couple of years within the PMI community, uh, not only in India but all across the PMI global. So if you see certain examples which I put over here is like the one is the PMI Standard Plus. That is a platform for all the PMI members where you can contribute by your knowledge sharings and whatever you learn, you can share through certain case studies, examples, and certain contents which they'll go through it and they will identify and then it is published on the PMI standard. So it is one of the good way to contribute as a PMI member and to get your PDUs basically. So recently, two of my articles were published on the PMI standards. You can go through it. I'll just put it as a example or the names. One was on the solution refinement. So how to identify the various solutions, which are the different methodologies while you work on various projects. So it is on the Lean Six Sigma approach in the manufacturing. The second one is on the enhancing the organizational strategies through various sustainable change initiatives. So these are the couple of articles got live on the PMI Standard Plus, and I'm also contributing and attending various PMI events. Recently, I have been into the PMI Gujarat chapter events, and also earlier I got the opportunity for the PMI Mumbai chapter in the 2024, where I contributed on the topic of the fundamentals of PMI. So, moving forward, basically, I'll just ask you to go through the ground rules basically. So ensure you are not on driving or you must be in the safe environment while attending this webinar so that your safety and your family safety will be on the priority. And the second ground rule is you whenever you find something you just take the notes. Don't avoid the multitasking so you can get most out of it. And whenever you are in doubt, you can ask questions and we'll be having the separate Q&A session at the end of the session. So it will be more interactive and we'll discuss on the various questions. So before we start, I would like each one of you to take a 1 minute pause. So as in the lean or the continuous improvement, there is one methodology called as a PDCA, that is called as a plan, do, check and act. And as a project management professional, our first and foremost and important task is to plan, right? So I would encourage everyone wherever you are, you can use your mobile, laptops, or whatever the hard copies or the post-its you have. You can put 5 bullet points which you are anticipating or you are expecting to be addressed during the session. So you can. also go through it while following the PDC experience during this couple of hours journey for this session. So I'll ask everyone to put their bullet points uh, on whatever the media you like to use, either on soft copy or hard copy. So you can put it. Okay. I hope you have put it whatever the expectations from this session, and we'll definitely take you through those expectations during the session and at the end of the session. So our today's journey will be mostly on this con- uh, terminology. So first will be on the context setting. We'll go through the basics of the link, how it is being applied with the project management, what are the different methodologies. Then we'll also go through what exactly the lean thinking terminology talks about, the foundational concepts of it. And there is one concept which is recently being introduced by the PMI that is called as a more. So we will go through it and we'll find out what exactly the relevance in terms of the current environment while we are working on the various projects. Then, at most important from the session is on the lean principles. So, what are those principles and how and what are the different techniques which we can apply in our routine projects. Next topic will be going through on the importance of the flow and the waste. So, that is the heart of the lean when we apply those concepts into our projects. So, it will be going through various topics like what are the impediments of the flow, what are the causes, and how we can cure to improve the flow. And next concept will be on some of the case studies and the industrial applications. And lastly, we'll conclude with the key takeaways and the Q&A. So here I would like to take you through one of the blogs which I recently gone through on the PMI portal. You also can go through it by searching the step up a new vision for the project success. So it says that, and it is very eye opener actually. So only 7% of the project professionals practice the behaviors. Those are linked to the stronger project outcome. So it is just a single digit figure, and it is really eye opener. So when as a project professional, when we work on various projects by delivering the values, outcomes, and outputs, we should be ensure that we not only follow the practices or the principles, but it should be also a behavior based. Now, when we talk about the behavior based, so how to go through it or how to adopt those behaviors. So those behaviors are basically driven by the various lean methodologies, lean principles, and lean thinking. So there is one more also aspect like uh, PMI is anticipating there will be around 30 million project professionals by the end of the 2035. So if you see the quantum of the people, those will be engaging in the project management professionals will be too much. And as of now, if the only 7% of the people are practicing those behaviors, then it will be really a challenging scenario. So while most of the project professionals know what good project management looks like, but very few consistently practice those behaviors that actually drive that successful outcome. Right? So mostly it is not about the knowing or the know-how or the knowledge gap, but it is on the behavior side. It is on the leadership side. It is on the power skill side in terms of the triangle of the PMI. So it is a question like why this number is low. So many when this research comes out and there are lots of things on the background. So they have checked on the many. project environment, which mostly go through the reward compliance, like only going through the various cost, time, or budget perspective, not on the leadership perspective. And most of the case, the PMs are often measured that the project success will be on time or on budget and not on delivering the outcome. And there is also many times it is happening like most of the organizations having some due pressure to push the timeline, and most of the times PMs are into the administration and the kind of a documentation on the reporting aspect. And one more aspect is like the stakeholders. Now, stakeholder management is really a tricky in today's changing, ever changing world. So, and most of the time it is considered as a soft skill. Now, if you would like to convert or improve this 7% to double digit or even more on that, it will be a core discipline of the each and every project manager. So here you see the biggest opportunity today is not by using or applying the project tools, but by demonstrating the behavior. And that is how the lean comes into the picture. So now I would like to go through one case study, and it's a small case basically, and I would like you to ask if this project is considered as a success in terms of you or not. So you just imagine that you are a senior management project professional with a technology company, and you have just completed your project successfully, and you are celebrating the success of the project because it was delivered in within the timeline, not even the timeline, but it is completed before 2 weeks. Then the budget is also you have underutilized, that is also 5% under the budget, and it has met every requirement of the scope. Even apart from that, it has also passed all the quality tests. So I would like to ask everyone on the chat box what you consider, is it a success or not? You can type yes or no in the chat box. Yeah, Ankur, good. Kamleda saying yes. Anupam saying no. Divendra saying yes. Vivek is saying no. Stakeholder feedback. Lessons learned. Value addition. Okay, great, great. So it's a kind of a mixed outcome for this particular question. So basically, the answer is no. Now, just understand why it is no. Because over a period of time, the project is get out of the control. The cost or the deliverables are not as per the customer or the stakeholder expectation. So stakeholder feedback is utmost important when we close out the project, and the benefit realizer or benefit owner must have realized all the benefits in terms of what is being projected at the start of the project, right? So thanks everyone for contributing. Now we'll go. Now there is one more statement by the Thierry Lee man, who is the current PMI president. So he's telling like that the projects those are focusing on the three aspects. The first one is the vision, the second is the measurement, and third one is the value. So those projects are far more likely to succeed, and those projects which are just on the time, scope, and cost elements are not having that much success. So this is a really an eye opener for the project professional where to and what to look for. So most of the organizations, most of the time, manage the project very well, and still sometimes it got disappointed with the result. But traditionally, we define the project success by three things, as we most of the people are knowing. So we generally ask that, was it on the time, was it within the budget, or did it deliver on the agreed scope set. So when we talk about all these three, so it comes like when we talk on the time. So are we on the schedule? All the schedule part is covered or not? Then second is the cost. So are we within the budget? And the third element is on the scope. So are we delivering what was defined at the start of the project? So those are mostly on the important controls, but they only tell us that how well the project was executed, not whether it is actually mattering as per our current scenario. So a project can match all the three, but it fails to deliver the value. And that is how it is happening nowadays, that due to the ever-changing environment or the different scenario and the uncertainties in the various project framework, it is not making the deliverables or the outcomes. So high performing projects mostly start with the vision. So that vision is very clear, shared understanding why these projects get exist. And so basically, when we talk about the vision, it talks about the three questions. So first question is like, what problems are we truly solving by achieving the or the completing the project? The second is, what will be the difference for the business and what will be the different outcome for the customer when we complete the project or when we succeed. And third is, when the vision is clear, decision making becomes very easier, and even though we are under process pressure, but our deliverables can make. Let me give one simple contrast. One project finishes on time and on budget, but users still struggling to get the benefits because the benefits are unclear. There is one another project where they have took certain projects with the agile methodology or the lean methodology, and they took the, the challenges and they aligned the project outcomes based on the customer requirement or the customer value delivery. And they such by that they have reduced the cycle time by 25% and improved the customer experience. So which one feels success, right? The second one, right? Because it is enhancing the customer experience. So when we prioritize the value relative to the investment and outcomes as perceived by all the stakeholders, it is really giving the success to the project. So what are the different fundamentals, right? Now we'll just go through it. What are the different fundamentals that drive the success into the project? So these are the three elements which are nowadays very important when we talk about the project success. So the first one is the clarity in the vision. So when we start the project, when we framing up the project charter, or when we understand the customer or the stakeholder perception, it should be well communicated within the all stakeholders. What exactly the value delivery as the outcome from this project. So when we are clearly communicating to each and every stakeholder, the probability of the success to this will be more higher than that. So when we frame up the vision, it should be smart. So as smart tells that it should be specific, it should be measurable, it should be achievable, it should be relevant to the project, and it should be the time bound. So likewise, for example, to reduce the order cycle time by 20% within the master. It talks about the time, it talks about the what we need to do, where exactly we should do, it is measurable and it is the relevant with respect to the process. Second aspect is on the effective measurement. So when we talk about the effective measurement, And when we start the framing of the business case or the project statement or the problem statement or the objective, so it should define what are the different success criteria which are within our business activity. And we should establish a measurement system as a project manager that it should be clearly visible across the project lifecycle. And tracking of the outcomes throughout the life cycle is utmost important. The third and one of the important aspect is the value focused delivery. So most of the time project teams that make decisions based on the value related to the investment, not just on the task. So our project should not be a task focused, it should be a value driven. Then and only it can give the better result. So for that we can use certain tools or the terminologies to identify how we are delivering on the value focused delivery. So one of the aspect is called as a impact effort metric. So based on the impact, it should be identified. Sorry, based on the effort, we should be identify how much impact it is resulting, and based on that, we should identify the actions and the whole schedules management of the complete various project management plans should be purely based on the this particular metric. The one of the important aspects we should also take it into consideration is minimum viable product. So when we talk on the agile project, it should be on the minimum viable product. Now, it should not be, we should take the consideration that when the project completes, we'll be fully handing over the project product to the end customer. So we should be going through the MVP each and every time, what exactly the value which customer in this changing scenario is asking us and how we are able to deliver on the minimum viable product. One of the important aspects when we talk about the measurement is about the MBI, that is the minimum business increment. So minimum business increment is always with some reference, right? And it should give certain enhancement from the current scenario to the new scenario. So MBI is always we should ensure that it should be with some reference, and that is how the customer or the stakeholder will get some increment out of that. So let's say, for example, when we are developing one customer relationship management software, and it is under progress, and customer is just first asking for the various basic feature on the search of the various customers from that customer portal. So if we are able to deliver on that on the first way or with the quick win methodology or the minimum business increment, so then the customer will be more happy to go ahead with the project. So that is how we should always align the deliverables in terms of the value as per the requirement of the customer, and that is how the this methodology will help us. So these are by using these fundamentals that drive the project success. What are the various ways to see the project as a deliverable or not? So there are four aspects. So the first one is the deliverable. The second one is called as output. The third one is called as outcome, and fourth is the benefit. So these are the four different terminologies which are relevant when we feel the project is succeed or not. So let's say take an example of developing a new mobile app, and that is how we came into the project. We have started the business of developing this mobile app, and we are on launching of the first mobile app. So in this particular scenario, the deliverable will be the physical output or the mobile app which will be functional or up and running on the Play Store. Now for this particular scenario, the output will be like the completed the code module. So when we are running this particular project, the output will be monitored. So each and every phase will see that the code modules are completed, the prototypes are ready, design is ready, the UAT or the user acceptance phase are completed or not. So those are the different outputs of that particular project. Now what exactly the outcome is? So outcome is basically the increased user engagement. So let's say that that app has downloaded by so many people in a very short span. Then that is the outcome that the more it is more user friendly, and that is how the user engagement has increased. So that is the outcome. And the second one is the improved user satisfaction. So let's say that application is very user friendly and giving the good ratings out of the Play Store, then it is giving the good improved user satisfaction. And important aspect is on the brand awareness. So it is also enhancing the brand to scope up into the market. The fourth terminology is the benefit. So the terminology talks about, so this particular terminology talks about the various elements or the key deliverables or the measurable aspects of the project. So that is called as a benefit. So it is basically talks about the number of downloads within a day, then the rating by the various users, the revenue from the in-app purchases. So that is how the benefit is being evaluated. So many times we are using those terminologies, that is deliverable, output, outcome, and benefit. And this is a very important aspect when we talk about the project success or project outcome. So these four terminologies should be taken into the consideration. So I just try to give one snapshot in one slide that is using this four terminology, what exactly. So mostly the deliverables are the tangible or intangible goods and services. So it is basically produced by the project and handed over to the customer or the stakeholder. Now it is basically what the project promises to the deliverable to deliver. So for example, what exactly the deliverable is, like when we are developing some system, when the system is released or launched, that is the deliverable or the outcome. Then second is the training program. Third example is the process document. So these are the example of the deliverable. Now for deliverables, who is the primary accountable in the various project management stakeholders? So project manager and the project team is the main accountable for that. The second terminology is the out, output. So output is basically the measurable results, right? And it is basically the team who takes care of that. So during the project execution, the team uh, produces the results. Those results are called as the output. So those are the certain examples, like where there are various reports, checkings, then design, various scores, the different test results. Those are considered as an example of the output. The next terminology is the outcome. So what exactly is the outcome is? So once you go through the project, and what are the changes or effects which are resulting when the customer or the user starting using the output. So those are the changes once the deliverables are used or being consumed by the end user. So there are certain examples like when you start faster order processing, right? And the application or the system which you launch having the fewer errors, and the business owner or the end customer is really facing that this is a very good, or it is giving the good star rating. The next aspect is the benefit. So benefits are basically the measurable values which are gained from achieving the outcome. Now, to understand it, why the project was worth doing. Now, when we started the project, we always anticipate certain benefits. So all the benefits should be in terms of the measurable value, like cost saving or revenue growth or the customer satisfaction. And the primary accountability of those particular benefits is on the sponsor side or the senior leadership side. So to remember it, projects create the deliverables, it delivers the outputs, it enables the outcomes, and it realizes the benefits. So If you are a PMP aspirant, then there is one terminology called as a benefits realization management. So under that, this terminology can be widely used, and you can create the benefits profile, benefits register, benefits map with this terminology to give the more precise way of communicating to the various stakeholders. And by this, you can really create the value during and after the project, and even it can enhance the best outcome of the project. Now, what exactly the lean thinking is, right? So, in traditional way, most of the case, we are assessing the projects by meeting the triple constraints. These are the scope, schedule, and cost. So, and even we know that it is a foundational and always needed. But in today's scenario, when AI is also picking up, the world is ever changing, the volatility is there, the demand of from the customer or the end user is quite changing throughout the execution of the project. We should be flexible, and that flexibility is being offered by the methodology called as a lean. So it is very utmost important to understand those aspects. Now, when we apply the lean management methodology, we should start first thinking, and for thinking, we should have the special skill called as a observation. So when we talk about the lean thinker terminology, we should always observe the things in a different way. So here there is one example. There is a glass which is full half. So the optimistic person see this scenario or the situation as he thinks that the glass is half full. And the pessimistic will think that, oh, this glass is empty, half empty. And when you think as a lean person, you will think this particular scenario as why is the glass twice as big as it should be? So when we talk about the lean thinking, it always talks about the optimization. Now, if the requirement or the customer is asking only this much of water, then the glass should be of that size only. Right? It's very pretty simple, but it gives a triggering to the mind to think in a different way, and that is how the first step of the lean management or the lean thinking comes. We should always see the scenario in a very different perspective or the very different eye or mindset, and that is the initiation of the lean management. So what exactly the lean is, right? So here I try to summarize and give the explanation of the what exactly the lean is. Most of the time, lean is considered as an improvement philosophy, and nowadays it is called as a mindset because it always talks about the seeing the things in the different way. That focuses on basically the value aspect. Now, value where will get identification of the value? It is always and always perceived by the customer or the end user or the stakeholder. So it is just giving a different eyesight, mindset, and the methodology. It is basically a set of principles when we apply can create the products and services which are most valuable to the customer. So it is always start with a customer eyesight, and it is always a customer centric. So when we see the things from the customer eyesight, we all we will be going through the flow, or which will be soon talking about, and we'll be always talking about what are the non-value-added activities which are in our value stream. And through that, we always try to minimize the waste, maximize the quality, and the more deliverables to the customer. So it is basically applicable in any kind of work process or any kind of work which we conduct. It is not only into the industrial application or into the service industry. It is widely accepted all across the industry. Even I would say it's also applicable in various non-profit organizations and government. So what exactly lean is not? So there are certain myths that it is always talking about data, it is always talking about the analytical thing. It is not about that. It is an alternate. It is many times it is people saying that it is alternate approach to the continuous approach, but it is like it is a methodology. It is a complementary to the Six Sigma. And nowadays, many times the current terminology called Lean Six Sigma is used. So when we talk about the success of the project, so successful projects always deliver the value that was worth the effort and the expense, right? So how the lean success is. So basically, if value does not exceed the effort and expense, the system is inefficient. So there is always a scope for the improvement, and that is how the lean is starts. So in lean, the success is simple. If value does not exceed the effort and the expense, the system is inefficient. So that is how this terminology is now being popular. That value is always greater than whatever the efforts and whatever the expenses will be coming up. So value should always be higher than effort plus expense. So I'll just take you the example like there is a project where we are putting too much of effort and we are reducing the expenses, but it is not adopted or not user friendly or the stakeholder perspective we did not consider, then this project is to be considered as a low value project. And we are putting, there is one another scenario like where we are putting the, the effort which are into the moderate and the expenses also are moderate, but it is being highly adopted and giving the good impact to the business, then this project should be considered as a high value. So it is not talking about the cheapest or the fastest. It is always talking about the value it gets. Now, why this topic matters is due to the changing of the real business environment. And nowadays, the complex business environment, and we most of the time heard the terminology called as a VUCA, that is volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. So that is how the business is now taken care of. So these elements we should always be taken care as a project manager, and to view the success to our project, we should always involve the stakeholders, various technologies, and what are the interdependencies on those. So this is the real challenging scenario nowadays. And even apart from that, the pressures which are being intensified all across the various industries. Like organizations demand faster delivery, lower cost, and higher value all together. So that is also building a pressure in our value chain with our team, with our management, with our project professionals. Now the reality is all the traditional project management frameworks alone are no longer sufficient to meet this kind of modern demand. And the solution lies with the lean. So lean thinking always adds critical capability. Now how it adds the critical capability is with the help of the clarity in the purpose. So as I mentioned earlier, it always talks about the value creation to understand the value from the customer perspective. The second and most important aspect is on the flow. So we'll be going through on this particular topic how the flow impacts on the successful project. And the third and most important is on the systematic waste management. So now, how this lean thinking or lean methodology originated. So I'll just quickly go through it. So lean is basically originated from the Toyota production system. So Toyota is the I would say the father of the lean methodology, and it is basically revolutionized in the manufacturing industry in the 1950s in the Japan, and uh, around 1980s, 1990s, there was one book which is called as the machine that changed the world got published. And there is a very wonderful book. You can go through it. The Machine That Changed the World by author James Womack and Daniel Johns. It talks first about the terminology called as a lean. So lean is basically when we talk about there are two persons to whom we can call as a lean. So the person with a low fat, with a structured a body, and that is called as a lean, right? So lean always talks about removing the extra, unnecessary, or non-value added aspects of the uh, whatever things or product process or anything we talk about. So lean is basically started from the manufacturing shop floors, and nowadays it goes beyond that. It goes to the knowledge work, healthcare, software development, and the project management. But the core principle of the lean is still relevant, and that talks about maximizing the value by minimizing the risk. So that is the underlying principle, and that will remain whatever the new AI or anything will come up in future. But the relevant of the lean will remain as it is. So it always talks about the three aspects. One is on the value focus, second is on the continuous improvement, third is on the it is a universal application. So when we talk about the value focus, it should always start with the customer centric mindset. It should always deliver what exactly the customer is looking for. And the second aspect is the Kaizen. So in lean methodology, Kaizen is a Japanese word which talks about Kai stands for the change and Zen for the better. So we should always pursue for the perfection by improving on day to day on our processes. And that is how lean talks about the mindset or the thinking. And it is being universally applicable in most of the industries beyond manufacturing. Now, how the lean and the current project management methodology will merge. So, one of the PMI research shows that project success means delivering the value and not just the deliverable. So, it talks about one of the more important methodology is called as a MORE, that is a more mindset. So, here you can see there is a convergence of these two methodologies. So, what exactly more is M stands for managing the stakeholder perception. O stands for own the project success beyond the delivery. R stands for we should relentlessly reassess as conditions change. So we should be always flexible enough as a project manager to adapt, learn, and change as per the requirement of the business demand. Whatever the various external environment factors, we should always be adaptable to that. And the fourth important aspect is expand your organizational perspective. So you should not be think like a frog in the well, and you always always pursue the various perspective how it should be by expanding the our vision. So to understand this more concept, the in today's hyper competition and unstable regulation policies and very fast paced innovation world, how this concept is relevant with respect to the lean. So, or we should it start with the managed perceptions, right? So basically, the understanding of the stakeholder, their influence, and how those values are perceived of the stakeholders. We should throughout the project life cycle, we should gather the voice of the stakeholders. Stakeholder engagement should be there, and we should not uh, take it apart from the project. And we should always talk with the different stakeholders, understand the requirements, which is, I would say, stated or unstated needs has to be aligned to define the success. Now, the second aspect is on how to define the how to own the project success. So, as a project manager, full accountability has to be taken for delivering both tangible and non-tangible outcomes. And it should always not talk about or limiting towards completing the task, but beyond that. R basically stands about the relentlessly reassess the project parameters. So during the project life cycle, we should always revisit and adapt various project parameters, various success criteria, how the success looks like, and what is the change of the success statement from the different stakeholder perspective due to the evolving or changing scenario in the our external environment. And last is we should always expand our perspectives and think beyond the project. Now, when I talk about think beyond the project, we should always think of how this project will impact on environmental aspects, how this project will impact on the various societal aspects, and what are the ethical outcomes of those. So nowadays, most of the listed companies, there is a mandate that it should be compliant with the ESG guidelines, that is called as the environmental, social, and governance guidelines. So this is always should be taken care. So when we adopt applying the more methodology, it will create more value, more credibility, and we should see that the overall success rate will be high. So that is how this terminology will help us to drive the project in a better. So this is again one of the research done by the PMI that it states that only 7% of the project professionals are practicing all four elements of the mode. So when you start applying the all four elements of the mode, the success of the project delivery will be higher and higher. So the more mindset basically allows all the project professionals to not only focus on the three-dimensional aspects of the project delivery, but it will give the broader vision, broader thinking, and we should also always understand how the PMI talent triangle will help us to understand this scenario. So, first and foremost, it talks about the power skills. So, when we start talking our stakeholders by understanding their perceptions, we always communicate effectively. We we see their problems, try to solve the problems, and the teams which we are leading, it should be with confidence. Now, with the different ways of working, the second talent triangle part is like how we are getting adaptable in an evolving landscape of various methodology tools and the structure. And third is the business acumen that talks about the how we are connecting the work to the broader strategic and financial goals. So these talent triangles should always be guiding us as a uh, uh, during our project life cycles to help us on the drive the more project. Now it is always talks about the value. So The managing perceptions means delivering the value which is sometimes it is seen, understood and appreciated. So it always talks about the implied and unimplied expectations from the stakeholder. And that is how it merges with the lean methodology by looking or seeing the things in a different way. And that is how it is not a methodology, it is a mindset that we need to drive to create a value creation opportunity. Now, this is a very important aspect of the lean methodology, which is called as a lean principle. So these are the five lean principles which are widely adopted in various industries. So first is talking about the identification of the value. So we are talking from since long about the value. So we should identify what customers mean by exactly the value and why customer is willing to pay us for. So that is how the defining of value is important. The second aspect is in which value stream or in which area this value is being created. So we should identify the scope where this value is being created by using the various tools of the lean, which is called as a value stream management. And we should identify where exactly the value is delivered, what are the different concepts to deliver, and that helps us to identify, see, and recognize the various elements of the waste, which are called as a non-value added activities in our process. So once we apply the value stream management, uh, we can go through the flow methodology. Now, how to create the flow? So flow is basically converting the input into the output. And while converting that input into the output, we do certain activities, tasks, and while performing those tasks, we should always ensure that there should not be an waste element, which is maybe prevalent in our processes due to there are so many reasons. And once we apply the value stream management tool, it will really help us to identify the flow. So when we apply the value stream mapping, it talks about the three flow. The first flow is about the material flow. If we talk about the physical movement of the material in the manufacturing scenario, but it not only restricts up to that, it also covers another two important aspects of the flow. The second aspect of the flow is on the information side. So in most of the cases, it has been seen that information is not flowing through the value chain, and that is why the flow is stuck up, and that is how the stack of work or the unnecessary movement or non-valued activity are being carried out. So when we apply the value stream management tool, it talks about the material flow, it talks about information flow, and third and foremost important is of the cash flow. So it will really give us the eyesight where the things are getting stuck up and how and what are the various financial implications of those unwanted activities in our value chain. Those needs to be addressed. So when we apply the value stream management as a tool, it will be in a two stage. The first stage will be we start with the start process, end process by taking into the customer into the case and what are the different interactions within our value chain, and that is how the current state of the process will be mapped. And when we see by using the lean methodology, we see that those are the various non-valued activities. So we'll be going through what are the different ways. In lean, it is called as a waste or the non-valued activity. we'll be going through what are the different eight ways. When we see in the across the value chain for those eight ways which are prevalent, and we prepare the future state. Now, when we prepare the future map, we identify certain areas for the improvement, right? And where this the fourth principle comes into the picture by establishing the pool. So, establishing pool is mostly relevant with the manufacturing terminology, but it is not restricted to that. So, pool means or we should think that subsequent process should ask for the information or pull the requirement from the this immediate process, and that is how the pool comes into the picture. So it is always talks about the customer demand perspective. And next and last stage of the lean principle talks about the seeking the perfection. So that is how it is a continuous improvement cycle. It talks about the pursuing the perfection. So we should always continuously improve by refining the our iterations. So these principles are basically used to create the sustainable competitive advantage to our project. Now, when we talk about the lean thinking and the lean practice, so lean thinking, as we mentioned, it always starts with the customer. It always talks about the value and what exactly the problems we try to solve with the customer. So basically, it always talks about the work and the amount of the work is the actions that directly or indirectly create a value. Now, this includes like how to optimize the flow, how to make the flow and the work visible, and how to keep the workloads within the capacity. So that is how the in manufacturing it is called as a line balancing or the Hejunka. But if we talk about the service industry or any other industry, it talks about balancing the workload within our team, within our resource, right? So when using these ongoing experimentation, the workers and managers learn by innovating their work for increasing the better quality, better flow, the time will get reduced, the effort will be minimized, and the cost will be reduced. So that is how it is a systematic and continuous cycle uh, with the help of the methodology of the day. Now, here you can see the various aspects of the lean. It is basically from the customer perspective. Now, we should always understand the customer requirement in a proper way. And here there are 10 different meanings how the customer value or the customer requirement is being perceived by the different stakeholders while performing the project. So, uh, the first scenario and the first picture, what you see over here, is basically talks about how the customer explains. So, customer has explained by straightforward that it should be a tree swing on the tree. The swing was requested, which is very simple with the three steps, and it should be a functional. Now, as a project leader, when the project leader is mapping it, so how it he has understood it like he has interpreted like as a minimal swing and with a without any support. Now, when it goes to the business analyst, the requirement has been completely changed and the design has been over engineered, and there has two supports have been added. So now it increase the time, it increase the effort, and it increase the budget. Now, when it goes to the programmer, he has how it is written it like he written the rope incorrectly, and it resulting in a scenario that it cannot be used. Now, when this particular case goes to the business consultant, he addressed that it should be very comfortable, luxurious with the sofa. Now, when this particular scenario was passing through the documentation phase, it has been seen that it missed the essence, almost nothing, right? Like the complete thing is missing. installation of this particular scene was taken there. It was just a go. And here you can see how the customer was billed, or the invoice to the customer will happen. And this scenario talks about how it got supported. The last one is the scenario which talks about how the customer really needed. So you see the different angles or different mindset or different aspects of understanding the requirement. So it many times it happens that we are fail to understand the requirements, and this scenario is the real example that if the value or the requirement it should be perceived by the different people across the value chain by the different way. Now, how we should maximize the value? So, value is always talks about the benefits and costs, right? So, in terms of the business realization management or benefits realization management, the equation talks about benefits should always be cost should always be minus from the benefits to deliver the value. Now, as we mentioned about the various elements of the waste into the lean project management, uh, it is called as a state waste, or the it is in short term it is called as a downtime or team work. So here I would just explain in terms of the various different industry scenarios to have a proper understanding to address the need of the diverse people. So when we talk about the overproduction as a waste, the creating the features which are not required by the customer, creating the reports or documentation before the customer or the user has requested. So that is called as a overproduction. Overproduction basically means that what is we are producing it to meet our capacity, but it is not required by the customer. So any scenario in any case or any industry, this particular waste is called as a overproduction. The second waste is called as a waiting. So subsequent process has to wait to get certain approvals, information, decisions, or the work during the workflow, the resources are not available. Then there exists the waste of the waiting, and that is a very important aspect to be addressed when we create the flow. Third aspect is the motion. So it mostly prevent by searching the various information, various tools, various documents. So that is how the motion based prevent. The fourth one is the transportation. Basically, it delays in miscommunication during the handovers, and when it mostly happens when the various project people are changed or they are being phased out, and then that is how this waste will prevalent, or most of the time when the handovers to the different people across the value chain, this waste will be there. The the next one is on the over processing. So we are creating the deliverables with more and more details which are not required or not even used by the stakeholder or the customer, then it is called as a over processing. The next one is the underutilization of the skills. So most of the time team members skills are not used to the full potential, or their expertise are not used due to the misalignment or the poor work assignment during the project. The next one is the inventory. So inventory is most of the time in manufacturing terms it is called as a raw material, WIP, work in progress, or the finished goods. But if we go beyond the manufacturing industry, it talks about if we are doing the partially completed work and it is being continuously piled up, it is called as an inventory, which creates more work when it is required to go through it again, and it creates the multitasking and switching, cross context switching. So that is how it creates the non-value added workflow into our value. The last and the most important is on the defects and the rework. So different errors which we are creating during executing various project phases, and which is not as per the requirement, of the customer or having some issues from the quality side is called as a waste of the defect and the defect. Now, this one is very important to understand in terms of the flow because the flow is the heart of the lean methodology. So, when we look our value delivery system, this important aspect has to be taken care of. And there is a very wonderful book called The Basics of the Process Mapping by Robert Fleming. So, whoever are more interested to understand, go to the concept of the flow, can refer this book. And it basically talks about the various five elements of the flow. So when we do any process or when we are in a process to create the value, it starts with the input. So basically input consumes the various resources, right? So once resources are transformed, it converts this input into the output. And in here in this particular case, the output is called as the item or the product or the service. So during each phase, value is being added, and that is how this particular resource will convert into the new one or the transformed resource. And this particular arrow or this particular interactions in the between the various processes is called as a flow. Now, the unit of measurement of the flow is basically time, or in lean methodology or in the manufacturing methodology, is called as a lead time. So this basically talks about start point, talks end point, and flow is basically the property of the work. So flow corresponds to the being worked on state. Ideally, flow consists of the 100% value creating work. So when we think of the flow, we should always aim for that there is a 100% value addition is there. And the lead time basically includes the elapsed time for all these states. So it always talk about the VA and NVA. So it talks about the value added time and it also talks about the non-value added time. So when we prepare the value stream mapping, this particular concept of flow has to be considered, and we should always see that what exactly the value creation is happening across the value chain. And as we understood and gone through the eight ways, what exactly the different ways are being there. So if we talk about the scenario of the knowledge work, uh, in this particular resource, input is into the three states when it transforms. Either it is weighted, either it is being worked on, or it is being moved on. So these are the three ideal states when we talk about any knowledge work in the various service domain. So basically, what is flow? So flow is the work property that characterizes the evolution of the transformation of the resource input into the output, and it is considered as a progression or the movement of the work along the across the value chain from one step to the another. So basically, flow always focuses on the value creation during the transformation, and it is not considered just as the movement of the task or just end up from one people to the other people. So here I just consider a simple case to understand what exactly is the flow. So a project requirement document moves from various functions like business analyst, then it goes to the IT department, then it goes for the quality testing, and then it is handed over to the PMO. Now, but during this particular project requirement document, waits at various stages for several days. Now, this document is moving, right? So it is getting flowed. People are busy, people are engaged to get the work done. So, is this considered as a movement or is this considered as a flow? Now, you can put your comments into the chat box what exactly you should see it as a movement or it is a flow. You can type, yeah, Ankur, it is movement, Akan, flow. So, uh, again, mixed feedback. So, in this particular case, it is considered as a movement. Why? Because it's not creating any value, right? So, when there is no value addition being taken care, it is always considered as a movement, and those movements we should always target for reducing, eliminating, or get rid of. So, so moving forward, the flow should always be ideal. And in manufacturing terminology, it is always as a single piece of continuous flow without having delays, without having defects, and without having waste or work in progress. So that is how uh, the flow concept should get understood. It is not a movement because in movement there most of the time there is no value addition. But when we see the things as a flow, it should be always be some value addition. Now, in next couple of slides, we go through what are the various impediments to flow. So the first aspect is on value and priority misalignment. So how to identify that there is a impediment to the flow. So the first category we should go through it, that is the misalignment in the value, misalignment in the priority. So there are aspects like in many times what happens like the project is started with the low value of cost because it should many times it found that there are low effort is required. But it should be always look for that is there any realization of the business value? If so, then we should really check, stop and check whether it is good to go or not. The second aspect is many times it happens that information are being created too early, and sometimes if it is too early, then it creates a havoc into the value chain, and it creates some rework or some quality issues, and that is how the lean principle of just in time comes into the picture. Whenever it is required, up to what extent it is required, and to whom it is required, we should produce those information correctly and on time. So third aspect is on the duplicacy of the work. So many times, many people within the team are working on duplicacy, and that has to be really checked for. So many times the people are in most of the scenario right now in many of the industry, the people are working in hybrid environment or they are working remote. So there is a most possibility or probability that work duplicacy will be there. And as a project manager, it is utmost important that we should take care that the work duplication should not be there to have the proper flow and proper alignment in our value chain. Next aspect is on the handoff in the communication. So when handoff is there from one person to the another, one department to another department, or one stakeholder to the another stakeholder, there has to be a maximum chances or maximum probability that the flow will get stuck up. So we should be always ensure that while handing over from let's say one document scope statement is being given to the project manager or subsequent documents are being handed over to the various stakeholders, there is always a chance to have a stuck up in the flow. And the handoffs should be always planned in a better way to improve the flow. Uh, Also, information comes late to the people, and that is also it create a waste of the waiting, and gap in the communication will result into the unpreparedness. People have to relearn, rework, and that is how information is the important. Then many times it happens that information never reach to the right place or right people, and that is also uh, create a duplicacy of efforts into the value chain. So flow improves only and only when we have a direct communication to the stakeholder, timely communication, and a collaborative aspect to the team. The third aspect is on the interruptions and multitasking. So many times it happens that there are unplanned interruptions due to the break or the cognitive flow. So teams must recreate the mental context when they are coming back from the interruption. Now, in while performing the project, the priorities get changed or some customer requirement has been changed. That also create a stuck up into the flow. People are not available due to some leave or some other issues. Then the beyond work, beyond capacity, the work is being assigned, and the people get overloaded, and people are not able to deliver within the time. And that is how the flow gets stuck up. So flow is destroyed not only by the lack of effort, but also many times it switch up so many times into the value chain, and that creates the unnecessary waste. The next aspect is on the feedback quality and the feedback. So what happened is like uh, one developer has built the complete product before understanding the requirement. So that is how it creates a impediment in the complete value chain with the flow. And testing happens too early or it is not in sync with the product quality. Then another aspect is like customer value delays many times due to success. And weak design increases the defect and change effort. So that is how we should ensure that the design will be prototype, ensured, tested, validated before putting into the next stage, subsequent stage of the design. A couple of aspects are like there are so many manual interventions in our processes so that the process gets stuck up in searching, fixing, and validating. It will also take the time. So in Lean, basically, the feedback which is given late is considered as an expensive feedback. And that is how uh, this aspect is very important too. So we see in last few slides like what are the various uh, scenarios where the flow gets stuck up. So most of the time we think that people are the culprit and due to which the flow is being stuck up. But it is not like that. So when we think from the lean perspective, it talks about the system. The system in our value chain is a real culprit or the root cause of the problem. And when we apply the lean methodology, it fixes the system so that the people don't have to absorb that unnecessary, undue pressure while working on. Now, here we go through what are the different causes of impediments to the flow and why delays hurt more than. So, it talks about the first is the delays create the hidden cost. So due to the delay in giving the information, delay in supplying, providing the information, uh, there are so many chances that it will increase the waiting, it will increase the rework, and whatever the efforts which we are putting will result into the zero delivery. Then second is multitasking. So multitasking is a symptom, not the root cause. The real problem is delayed work, piling up, and most of the time delays force people to start new work, and there will be always a multitasking. When one thing get delayed, the people start to work on the multitasking mode. So most impediments to flow are caused by the delays, and that is how we should always see or anticipate what are the delays, what are the probabilities of the delay, from where the delays could happen, and we should always see that the delays should not create an additional work to our value chain. And that delays, reduction into the delays is giving us an edge to our project to improve the flow elements into the complete value. Now, there are another aspect like when we are working on the large basis, that is also resulting in delaying giving the feedback, and always it will increase the working process into our value chain. So we should always aim for supporting with the minimum business increment as we talked earlier about, and slow feedback loop is also one of the elements. Then there are long manual processes, poor quality, and working beyond the. So what exactly the cure for those delays? How how we can get rid of that? So we should always fix the process and not the people. Right? So fixing the process often eliminates the delay and extra work it creates in the education. Now, what are the cure for delays? So from the lean perspective, delays are usually built into how the work is organized, optimizing workflow, removes delays at the source. And second aspect is how we can accelerate the value delivery. So it basically focuses on the optimizing our work, deployment of the work within the management methodology, how the quality and testing aspects of the product and services being worked on, and how teams collaborate and deliver. So the cure for delays, and what are the different practical strategies how we can get rid of or removing the delays is first and foremost is we should reduce the baseline by using the minimum business increment and minimum viable product. So we should not always aim for the complete delivery. We should always in touch with our customer, in touch with our stakeholder by using the stakeholder engagement assessment metrics, and we should always aim for that minimum viable product is iterative or in within couple of sprints it will be seen as a result. Smaller batches will always give and enhance our value chain to give the proper feedback and have the proper control so that the success will be maximized. The second aspect is finishing before starting the new work, and that is the really area of concern in nowadays of the Gen Z, and the people are now started multitasking, and that is how it also gets stuck up into the delays and focusing first on the completing of whatever we are working on existing tasks, so that it also reduces the waiting to the customer, and many times it creates a queue which are not seen into the project but it creates a delay. Next is about the managing the capacity and WIP. So we should always aim for what is the team size, what are the work elements, and with that team capacity has to be defined so that the every resource will get engaged, properly utilized, and there will be less or reduced WIP, and there will be no waiting. So these are also certain examples or the practical strategies like the capacity should be effective, workflow should be visible. Yeah, and that workflow visibility is very important in terms of the lean methodology because the visual management is one of the important scenario when we talk about the lean methodology. And lean always talks about the displaying or the communicating all the matrices or the success definition or the success criteria throughout the day-to-day work with a defined methodology or reviews, and that is how the visibility of each and every document or information will play a very significant role to reduce the delay. Now, as I mentioned earlier, that handoffs and handbacks should be as less as possible uh, for improving the flow and unnecessary transfer of the documents, various rework loop has to be utmost taken care of during the execution. And important aspect is direct collaboration. So many times there are so many mediators while performing the task, and that is how it creates unnecessary problems. As we gone through in the example of the tree and stream, you see that there are so many various ways to see and perceive the things. So we should always aim for that, like the direct collaboration always has to be there, or the people has to be taken care of, has to be into the sync or into the loop to improve the speed and quality of the work. And the fastest way to speed up the delivery is always not by working hard, but as a project manager, we should design the work system or workflow in such a way that it should not have to wait for so many times. Now, here I have taken one practical example of the case study of the healthcare of pharma, and with the help of the STAR methodology that talks about the situation, task, action, and result. So, what exactly we can go through it? Like there is a situation where the regulation or regulated drug has been launched, which are having certain delays in terms of the documentation, and and there will be a risk in terms of the upcoming audit, which is at that particular healthcare company. So the situation also having uh, issues in terms of the misalignment within their internal functions like regulatory, QA, clinical, and commercial. So these are the four critical functions for that particular new drug launch, and there is a severe misalignment has been observed. So this is the situation. Now, in this particular situation, what is the task or what objective can be taken is like the first and foremost important is stabilizing the delivery process by keeping the timeline of the drug launch. So there is always a requirement of aligning the stakeholders, and what actions we can aim in this situation is like there has to be a standard workflow with clear handoff and ownership with clear, we can use the metrics like RACI and clear identification of who does what at what level and who is authorized, who is consulted in each and every task. Yes, and the next important is on the visualization. So visual dashboards and Kanban methodology, what is in progress, what is to be done, what is where the challenges or the support is required has to be visible to have the proper actions on time. And another important aspect of the lean which apply which can be applied is the PDCA methodology as I talked earlier about it, like plan, do, check, and act. And that is a continuous cycle to use to remove the bottlenecks and various blocks in the improvement. So once those actions are taken care of, the result is with 30% faster time to the market, and the whatever the audit risk the company was facing that audit observation get reduced and the decision like cut from weeks to the days. So that is how the concept of the lean can be applied in this particular scenario. Even here, one more thing can be done is like applying the visual value stream management tool will also help us to understand where the flow is getting stuck up, at what stage the information is not passing through, or what stage there are so many documentation is there, or some inputs are not being addressed at the right time. And those tools can really help us to understand in that particular scenario to give the proper result. So these are the certain seven aspects when we talk about improving the flow. So when we map the flow, we should always try to see the outside in perspective. So it should be started with the customer, it should be started with the what value is being aimed for, and uh, second is measure what matters. So whatever the customer is requiring or whatever the stakeholder is demanding, that has to be uh, as a project manager, we should always put some measurement criteria on that. And third aspect is make the end-to-end flow visible by using the value stream mapping. And on that value stream mapping, I just like to mention that there is one separate course with the 5 PDUs in our PMI for all the PMI members. You can also go through it if you are interested on that. It is very in-depth course on that. You can go through it to understand the more aspects of the value stream management. So once you apply the value stream, now you can identify what are the barriers to the flow, where the value is stucking up, what are the non-value activities, and in the fifth stage, we can connect and align what are the value-added activities. As I mentioned earlier, uh, when we prepare the value stream mapping, we can always aim for what are the future state map, and in future state map we align what exactly the value-added elements or the fragments of the work which should be aimed for. And once it should be framed up, we should all organize that those particular elements into the end-to-end flow, apply those continuous improvement methodology, take certain actions, closely monitor it, and then the last step comes into the picture, which is called as the managing the flow visually. So that is how the improvement in the flow can happen with these seven steps. Now, I would ask everyone to have a pause over here, and I'll just would like to see your response on this particular question. Like, are your projects managing the task or truly delivering the value? You can answer in your chat box. Yeah, you can put your comments into the chat box. There is a restriction to have a talk, but you can see your comments on the chat box. So most of the people are saying like delivering the value, right? So that is how it should be always aimed. But while delivering the value, it is always important how we are managing the task, right? Because value is always visible to the external world. What task we are performing is only visible to us and within our value, right? So we should always aim for delivering the value while managing the task. But the value is the most and most important aspect. So as we talk about the more methodology, it talks about the managing the perception, and the successful project delivery only happens while we understand, while we manage the perceptions during the complete value delivery. So first and foremost important aspect we align on the success rate. So during each phase of the project, we should see on what the success look like, when we complete the project, what the success look like when we are driving the project, and it is not only the responsibility of the sponsor, but multiple stakeholders has to be engaged and to understand what exactly is aim. So continuously reassess the stakeholder perceptions by prioritizing which are getting evolved over a period of time, and due to this VUCA situation, always the priorities get changed, the perception gets changed, and during each and every phase of the execution that has to be taken care. So this particular aspect requires three part of it. First is called as a strategy, second is called as a communication, and third is a relationship building. So as I mentioned earlier, that stakeholder perception is most of the time considered as a soft skill, but with the scenario of the next phase of the project management, we should always consider as a relationship management or the relationship building as a tool to understand and succeed into the project. Now, storytelling with the data make metrics meaningful. Now, when we are going through the project delivery, the business impact should always be framed up in a some matrices. So let's say it should not be like that the cost is reduced by 10%. It is just straightforward. Uh, but it should be like the properly storytelling around it by saying that $2 million has been saved annually, enabling a reinvestment in the growth. So this is just first statement is only just talking about the benefits, but in this second statement is always giving the overall outcome or the long term gain from the project. The next is cognitive empathy. So cognitive empathy is basically understanding how the stakeholders think. So many times they talk differently and the thinking is different. So as a the project manager, it is utmost important that what they are not saying as a stakeholder, we should always think of it by using the lean methodology, lean thinking, and see what is the unusual which is happening. And empathic leaders always build trust, creditability, and long-term engagement with the stakeholders. And that is how the empathetic leader will, the success rate of the empathetic leader will be more higher than the ordinary. So most of the time projects fail due to the perceptions are not managed properly, or the, the thought process of the stakeholders are not being mapped properly, and that is how the flow also gets stuck up, the requirements also get changed, and there is undue pressure on the complete value chain, and that is how the stakeholder perception understanding is very important. Like, now, as we go through the fifth phase of the lean principle, that is called as the pursuit of perfection. So it basically talks about the continuous improvement cycle. So during the phases of the various in the project cycle, we get to come across various problems. So the first how this continuous improvement cycle is being applied is like when we face any problem, we should have a proper problem statement into the place, and we should go through the second phase with this problem. What kind of improvement or the potential change can happen by improving the areas of improvement. In the third phase, we check the various way of working by experimenting those improvement potential. And in the next phase, we assess the effectiveness, right, by measuring what exactly the outcome is. So there will be a two scenario. When we experiment, we adopt the new way of working, or we abandon the new way of working. So with whatever we abandon, we gain some learnings, and those learnings will be kept over here. And when we see or when we think that we'll adopt the new way of working, that will also go into the learnings, and it will be in the next phase, it will be seen as a continuous cycle. So the complete flows will be looped, and it is a complete feedback and feedback feed forward system. So it should be a continuous uh, closed loop cycle. So now moving towards the last few slides, why different projects need the lean methodology. So as we go through, there are so many chronic delays and rework. There is a overload in the system. There are the different priorities misaligned. There are excessive numbers of handovers across the value chain. There is a huge burden on the documentation, and there is a slowdown due to various activities or the bottlenecks into the system. So that is why the applicability of the lean methodology is there. Now, these are the signs you need lean into your project. So when there are more frequent rework, delays in the decision making, there are frictions into the cross-functional alignment. The many departments work in silos, and then there are most of the handovers are taking painful. People are finger pointing, so that is how there is a lack of the collaboration and where the flow gets stuck up and it should be addressed at that time. Many times the scope keep happens. The original scope statement will get prolonged over a period of time when there are undue delays and the boundaries are not beyond the limit, and then it expands without any formal change management process being taken care. So in that way, the focus will be diluted and it consumes the more resources, more rework, and unnecessary activities within the state. Many times it happens that simple tasks take weeks instead of days because of certain delays into the approvals and decision making, and that is how the work gets stuck up. And the most important aspect is the visibility of the stakeholder. So many times it happens that real-time insights, what exactly is in progress, what are the blockers and risks are not being informed at the right time to the right stakeholder. So that is how the lean comes into the picture and it will address the aspect of the flow. So moving towards key takeaways from the session will be lean is always complement. So it is not a full fledged, but it is not replacing anything, right? It is always integrating the thinking or the mindset into our existing PM framework, whatever we call it, team box, agile or hybrid. So it will always help us to improve the efficiency. It will always help us to improve the value delivery. And when we think lean mindset point of view, we can see, we can observe the ways which are prevalent into the so the ways which we go into the 8 ways. So those 8 ways we are able to see, and once we identify and apply the flow setting of areas, our 20 to 30% project capacity will be enhanced. So Lean always talks about the continuous improvement. So start small and think big. While thinking big, you should start small and gradually build upon it, and that is how the scale up of the success within the portfolio or the program management will come up. And Lean is always talks about the culture. So culture always matters most, and Lean always takes care of the people. As we mentioned earlier about that, the problem or the root cause is not always the problem, but the system. So it always gives us an edge to think that people are not the culprits, but the systems. As a project manager, we are able to look or see into it and to improve the value creation. So with that, I would say like Lean is not about doing more with less, but it is about creating more value with the same resources or less resources or the by reducing the waste. So I would say now we are open to the Q&A. So as I mentioned earlier in the start that many of you have written the expectations. So this is the PDCA cycle which we are talking about. So you have completely gone through the presentation or the complete webinar. So you have hear everything, you have gone through everything. So you have performed. So that two part is also completed. In between, we have certain interactions. So we have checked it and monitor it. And now it's your time to act with your question and answer to leverage or learning and by understanding what you have learned or what you have improved in this last couple of hours. So, Shika, can you take you through?
Yes, thank you, Arpit. There is one request. I will just go by one by one. So there is one request from Prakash. He is asking, please share the book's name again in chat.
Okay, so I'll just put it. Yeah. So the important book, if you start to go through the lean methodology, the book which you can opt for is the Machines That Change the World. It is a very wonderful book. It is by the authors James Womack and Daniel Jones, who have coined this terminology of well-being into the early 1990s. So they have given so many examples, and it's a good book to go to apply the lean thinking mindset.
Okay, thanks, Arpit. Next question is from Manoj Kumar. He is asking, how exactly do we ensure that documentation represents the customer requirement accurately and follow that for creation, apart from relying solely on human talent in the analyst?
Yeah. So when we are framing up the customer value or as you gone through that 10 pictures, so every people see the customer requirement or the document in a different way. But at the start of the project, it should be aligned what exactly is customer is asking in that particular report or documentation or approval, and the framework or alignment has to be there at the start of the project so that there will be minimal hiccups or even if we identify some hiccups while going through the project, we should use the value stream mapping as a tool if it is really a big issue, and it will really help us to identify the various interactions across the value chain, and that is how it will give a chance to improve in our regular system. So if you gone through that the what exactly the flow, so in that particular scenario, so when some input is converted into the output, right? So we do certain activities, right? And those activities we should be really mapped in to see where exactly the value is not created or where the flow is stuck up, and that is how first we should aim for identifying and address those waste. Once we identify those ways, we should discuss, brainstorm with our team, and then we should come up with the action plan. And that is how this continuous improvement cycle also looks.
Okay. Next question is from Sarika. She's asking, which operations can limit throughput? Can you please explain?
Okay, that is a good question. So it talks about the throughput, right? So throughput is basically the time, throughput time when we call it TTP. So throughput time is basically mentions that one operation starting and one operation end time. So that is called as a throughput time, right? And the complete end-to-end chain of the time is called as a lead time. So lead time is always driven by the customer, and throughput time is always driven by within our processes, right? So the throughput time is always within the lead time, right? And whenever we are not able to meet the throughput time, we should see and we should find out what are the hiccups, what are the ways, what are the uh, elements where due to which the resources not get transferred and creating the conversion of the value added work, right? So that is how we should aim for and work on the throughput improvement.
Okay, next question is from Ishan. He's asking, can you explain for EPCI projects which are undergoing through due diligence, whether lean management can be applicable in the EPCI projects?
Yeah, so as I mentioned at the start, that lean is applicable on each and every industry, each and every processes. Uh, and why many times we are having this kind of question is like uh, we should start with the thinking first, right? So lean is not about the management methodology, or it is not about only for the limiting to the manufacturing. So it is talking about always about the mindset. And when we talk about the EPC environment where engineering, procurement, and the construction activities are going on, so and see, in each and every thing, or in each and every industry, there are processes, right? And always processes are converting those inputs into the output. So, being it a procurement activity, or you are going through various deals, or you are going through the various purchase order documents, or whatever the documents, right? So, Lean always give an age to think over, see what exactly the value creation is happening within the value chain. And that is how this thinking, once we start thinking, we apply it. So there is one concept called as a LEAP, leap. So when we apply the lean, it is called as a LEAP, lean apply, lean and apply. So learn and apply. So it is only about learning and applying. It is there is no straightforward thing anything on the lean. So you should use the different tools, learn, apply, and close the loop of the continuous improvement.
Okay, next question is from Nilesh. He's asking, how can we mediate between different stakeholders who have different perceptions of business value?
Okay. Okay. Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, how can we mediate between two different stakeholders who have different perceptions of business value?
So when the perception is changed, or we find the variation into the stakeholder perception, uh, as PMI talks about, or there are various uh, stakeholder engagement assessment metrics is a wonderful tool. So I'll just talk about one of the example. I was working in one of the projects on the corporate governance, and there are so many stakeholders to be aligned. And I was talking about a case where the company is having working on the 10 different locations, different location on 10 different states, and there is a huge chunk of the different stakeholders to be managed. So we applied over there stakeholder engagement assessment. First, we identify who are the stakeholders, and who by identifying the stakeholders, we prepare the stakeholder list, and we came across that this particular government agency has to be taken care by. With this methodology, we should have a regular interaction, or we should involve in certain our internal celebrations, and that is how we can engage, or being in touch with them. So first important point is identifying the stakeholder. Second is identifying, understanding what exactly they are looking for, and based on that what they are looking for, we should prepare the action plan. So stakeholder engagement assessment metrics, and which we call as a SEAM, which is a wonderful tool which we can apply for the stakeholder perspective.
Okay, next question is from Shruti Shah. She's asking, we have so many documents in PMI for different phases. How can we do lean in this?
So yeah, so the first we need to understand the purpose, right? So so as the things are evolved, we do have so many uh, it talks about the requirements plan, scope statement, project charter, then various different documents, right? But when we are doing the projects, we should really identify what are the documents which we consider as a deliverable outcomes from each and every phase. and that is how it really creates the value. So, uh, if certain documents are not required by the customer or the user or the stakeholder, and as part of our normal routine practice we are creating, then that is unnecessarily creating a burden into the complete service, and the people are getting engaged. The resources are not finding the time to make the meaningful work. So the start of the project, or it is a continuous process, right? So always it has to be assessed that what documents create the value from the customer perspective, and those only documents should be created as per the requirement. Yeah.
Okay, I think that's it. The one more, I think that question is posted in the Q&A chat box. So this is one of the feedback on the case study from Biswajit Jaina. He is writing, great insight so far, Mr. Desai, sharing my perspective on the current situation. Since the product was released, the key stakeholder feedback has been significantly delayed, and despite multiple follow-ups, responses are still pending. In my view, this delay is affecting our ability to improve and plan next steps effectively. In this case, what is the best action steps to be done in your opinion?
So uh, everything is a process, right? So we should see which element of the process is stuck up. There are certain tools like process mapping or value stream mapping. It should always be used to understand what where exactly the stuffing up is there. So those tools can really helpful. So I would again encourage, if you are a PMI member, you should go for opt for the course on the value stream management. It's free for all the members. It is really giving a very good insight on how this value stream management is not only applied into the product based industry or in the manufacturing industry. It is always applicable for the services and another kind of industry.
Okay, next question is from Dipali Shirodkar. She is asking, please illustrate with an example how do we own project success beyond delivery?
Yeah, so it's a very good question, and actually that is why I put a couple of slides like it is talking about the four elements, right? So understanding this four element is very utmost important as a project manager. So it basically talks about the deliverables, it talks about the outputs, it talks about the outcomes, and it talks about the benefits, right? So once we are as a project manager, we are very crystal clear on these four elements. It creates the new look or new way of working as a project lead into our routine methodology, and that is how it creates the seeing the things in a different way. It creates the value across the project. And one more important element is, as I explained, is values should always be higher than the efforts and expenses. So this kind of things always has to be taken care.
Okay, I think that's it. And now everybody is saying thank you. So, as I told you, I will just share my last question for this session. So, this is my question. Since I am from inspection services operations background, I will like to know that can lean management be or have been applied in inspection services while performing inspections? Since we are already following different ISO EU directive standards to perform inspection services. So this is basically for the inspectors who are performing like heat treatment procedures are different as per specific ISO standards, or we are using visual inspection, dimensional inspection, though those are the global procedures. So can lean management can be applied in those processes?
Yeah. So it is a broader perspective. So I'll just take one of my example where in similar kind of situation, the lean is being applied. So there is a scenario in inspection where the people has to wait due to not availability of certain inspection or the basic format of the inspection. So I'm talking about a case where every part is different, and different quality inspector has to inspect. Uh, So in this scenario, uh, first the documentation of that particular format, because it is a manual process. So that report has to be there. So when we see the when we analyze this particular case, and we applied the one of the lean tools which is called as a spaghetti diagram. So what exactly spaghetti diagram tells us is like how many times people has to interact with the different instruments, different documents, different parts to get inspected, or even different ISO standards, right? Which guide those inspections. So we applied the spaghetti diagram. The spaghetti diagram tells about the various interactions within these different things. So once we applied the spaghetti diagram, it talks that about the unnecessary stoppages or the unnecessary movements for the part. So many times what happens, there are so many lots are being offered to the quality for the inspection. So to whom to prioritize, that is not clearly instructed. Second is like a scenario where the inspector is not able to know which documents to be referred. So with the help of this strategy diagram, we clearly identify as an inspector what exactly is required. So I'll just go through it first, and whatever the things which I need, the another people in my value chain will give the right input. So I need not to wait for, right. So everything is streamlined, and that is how in that particular process we able to reduce the inspection time by almost 25%.
Okay. That's good. I think I should be like able to identify where the lean principles have been applied if I go for inspections again and check out if you say. So thank you Arpit for this very interesting and informative session. This topic was totally a different a brilliant topic, so thank you once again. And I will for this I will just want to share up a certificate of appreciation from PMI Mumbai chapter. I'll just share it. Can you see my screen?
Yeah,
So please accept a certificate of appreciation from our end as a small token of thanks for accepting our invitation to present today's PM Forum session, and looking forward to invite you for presenting other interesting topics. So thank you, and there are lots of appreciation coming up from the chat box. Feedback form link is already posted in the chat box. So please, also the attendees who have joined today's session, feedback form link is shared, and you can share your feedback accordingly. And please note down, two PDUs will get credited automatically in your account for attending today's session. PDU code has already been shared in the chat box. And I request everyone to please wait for 48 hours to 5 days for the activation of the PDU code. So sorry for that because it was created just one day before. So it will take at least 48 hours to 4 to 5 days. So maximum 1 week your PDU code will be activated, so that then you can claim two PDUs who are in urgent to claim that. And there are lots of requests from the attendees to share the PDF file of the PPT. So I will like to inform that recording of this session will be uploaded at our YouTube channel, PMI Mumbai chapter, in a couple of days. So you can access this whole session from that YouTube channel. So that's it. And so thank you once again, Arpit, for your wonderful session. And thank you to all the attendees who joined this session. So meet you next session soon. Bye bye.
yeah. Thanks everyone. Thanks everyone for
Bye.
listening.